Okay, welcome everyone. This week is Parshas Ki Seitzei, and it has something very unique in this parsha because how many mitzvot are there in the Torah? 613. In this week's Torah portion, there are 74 mitzvot. So it's filled with a lot of different parts, a lot of different mitzvot in there, including some of the things that we're going to be talking about. Now, one of the things that I find so interesting about Torah is you can understand it on so many different levels, and we're going to see that in tonight's class. So it starts off with Ki Seitzei LaMilchama Al Eivecha. When you go out to war on your enemies, Unisladno Hashem Elokecha Biyadecha, God will give them into your hands, Vishavisa Shivyo, and you should take captives. So this is talking about when the Jewish people are obviously fighting, when they're conquering, when they're fighting the enemies and conquering their land. So what does this have to do with us, right? But this is where we see the different levels of and different understandings of Torah. So when we're talking about going out to war on our enemies, it's not only physically when we're going out to war on our enemies, even though Torah gives us a lot of guidance on that, and unfortunately, we still need this guidance till today, as we see. But what we're talking about here is actually something on a deeper level, is we all go out to war on our enemies. We are all battling something within ourselves. We're all battling a deficiency, an insecurity, a way of looking at ourselves. There are, every morning when you wake up, you're battling. You're battling with part of yourself. You're trying to get to your higher self, to this better version of yourself. And in order to get to this better version of yourself, there are so many voices inside of you that you need to negate, that you need to battle with, that you need to ignore, or that you need to not take into account, or that you need to reinterpret. There are so many voices within us that we are battling on a regular day. There are other people that we're battling sometimes when you're going. People who are in your way of trying to achieve your goals, achieve your missions. Circumstances that are in your way, circumstances that are stopping you from getting to what you want to achieve. Every day we wake up, it's a battle. It's a battle to get to what we want to do, to get to our goals, to get to our dreams, to get to our higher version of ourselves. And it's teaching us, so how do we approach these battles? So first of all, Ki Teitzei LaMilchama, when you go out to war, it's not if you're going out to war, but when you're going out. We all go out. War is inevitable, and realize that. So don't feel like it's only me who's always having these things that are holding me back or that are stopping me from achieving it. We're all going out to war. We constantly go out to war. First thing that you need to know is when you go out to war is you're going al aivecha. It says when you go out to war on your enemies, or al means like above your enemies, meaning you are above your situation. You are above your circumstances. You are above your deficiencies. You are above your failures. You are above those things that are holding you back. Because there's really three ways of looking at something. When you have a problem, when you have an insecurity, when you have a deficiency, how do you look at the problem? Do you look at the problem like the problem is bigger than me? And if the problem is bigger than me, there's no way, I've already failed. There's no way I'm gonna get through it. There's no way I'm gonna accomplish anything because this problem or this insecurity or this deficiency or this circumstance is so big that there's no way that little me can actually surpass it, get past it, right? That's one way of looking at it. The second way of looking at it is the problem or the issue or the insecurity or the deficiency is on the same level as me. And when you're looking at it that you're on the same level, it's also really hard because it's an equal battle and that's pulling me. It's so hard to overcome it. And then the third way of looking at it is that I am above my deficiency, meaning my deficiency, my insecurity is not defining me. So often in life, we look at a situation and we define ourselves by that situation. We define ourselves by our failures. We define ourselves by something that we can't do. I'm someone who has, can you fill in the blanks? I'm lazy, so I can't. I'm not motivated. I'm not ambitious. I have ADD. I have my previous traumas in life. All these things we label ourselves as somebody that is ... And we all can fill in the blanks of what we do for ourselves. I think if we went around the room, everyone would probably have some label that they can say of why they can't do something or other. And what you're saying with that is that this label or this way of looking at yourself is bigger. You are that problem. You're defining yourself as that entity. You're defining yourself as this is who I am. And the Torah is telling us that the most important way of overcoming a situation is realizing you are al oivecha, you are above your enemies.
It's also min hametzar. You're in your straits. You're compressing yourself. You're confining yourself by your, as you say, your deficiencies.
Yes, exactly. Right, right. And that's exactly what we're going to get to the next point.
What does that mean?
From your straits, from the metzar, from the mitzarim, the straits, confinement.
Like Mitzrayim, or something.
Right, like Mitzrayim, your confinement, and you're defining yourself by things that confine you.
Right. And that's the first way of getting over a problem is not looking or defining yourself as the problem. That's not who I am. I'm a person who is a soul. That is my definition. My definition of self is that I'm a soul from God that's in this body. And that soul has a lot that it can do. The body might have different personalities. I might have different characters or qualities. But my definition is as that soul that is capable of so much, as this perfect soul. And we should never define ourselves by what we've done, what we failed to do. This isn't who I am. This isn't me. We are above the issue or above the problem. Yes?
I just thought the way you said, like, until you understand that there is a problem, you are the problem.
Interesting.
And once you understand and acknowledge the problem, you're already above it.
Right. Yes. Interesting.
Like, think about everything that happened to you, like you struggle. Once you understand why you're struggling, what is the problem, what's keeping me from doing this, you're already above it.
Right.
So you can resolve that. You're already not it.
It's right.
And on the same level.
That's very true. And also it's important, like the Rebbe used to often say, the worst gullus, the worst exile, is when you don't even know you're in exile, right? The worst problem is when you don't even know, you don't identify what the problem is, but once you identify the problem, then it's separate from you. So it's no longer you. It's no longer who you are and what you are. So, and this is what it's saying, al oivecha, I'm above the things that are stopping me, my enemies, my things that I'm battling on a day-to-day basis. I'm above that. It's not something that controls me. Once you realize that it's not controlling you, that's half the battle. Because then you can go on to say, okay, so now how do I tackle this problem? What kind of methodology do I use? What kind of issues am I facing that I can then tackle it in a very rational way? But when you feel that this is who you are, then there's no way of tackling, because this is me. If this is me, then there's no way of solving the problem of who I am, because this is part of who I am. But when it's something that you are above it, now I can decide, okay, this is a quality that I have, this is part of my personality. Now what methodology can I use to be more organized, to be more efficient, to be more motivated, to be whatever it is that is holding you back from doing the things that you're trying to accomplish. And then, most importantly, how do we have this confidence to tackle the problems, to feel like we are above our enemies, that our enemies are not defining us, but we're above it? Because it says, Unisano Hashem Elokecha biyadecha, because Hashem will give the situation into your hands. Meaning, we're not working on our own. We're not alone. We're not an individual who is fighting all this hugeness of this world, the vastness of the world, the circumstances of the world. It's just too much. When we put it all on our shoulders, it's like little me against everything. I can't do it all. And we're saying, you don't have to do it all. It's God who is going to give this to you in your hands. God is going to be at your side helping you. When we feel that God is going to be helping us, that's again half the battle. It's already solved.
Let go and let God.
Let go and let God, exactly. When we feel that God is at our side, it mitigates the entire problem and the entire situation. And it's with every situation. You're having a parenting difficulty, you're parenting a child and you're feeling like, I'm such a bad parent. You feel you're such a bad parent, you become that bad parent. When you look at, for example, the successes though that you've had, the times that you were able to react in a very non-judgmental way, in a very calm, with a calm demeanor, what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on your failures or are you focusing on your successes? When you focus on your failures, you become that failure. When you focus on your successes, you become above your problem. And then when you realize that God is at your side, that God is not just leaving you, God isn't abandoning you, God put you in a situation because you have the power to overcome that situation. And when we feel that confidence in confronting life, it gives us such a boost. This is something that God is at my side. God put this challenge for me so that I can learn something from it. God gave me the circumstance so I can grow from it. It's not something that is defeating me. It's not something that's pushing me down, but it's something that I am going to confront with a confidence because God is at my side. And then, Vishavisu Shivyo, you should take captives. What does it mean you should take captives? So every battle that we are in, every situation that we go through, we need to extract from it a captive, meaning we need to extract from that situation a lesson, a learning, a meaning, something that we have gained from that situation. So don't just go through your life and through your situations and through the battles of life, just going through the battles. And even if you overcame the battle, don't just say, okay, I overcame the battle, next page, turn the page. No, what did I learn from that situation? What did I learn about myself? What did I learn about the world? What did I learn about others? What did I take? How have I extracted meaning from that situation? I've now made that situation, even when I failed, meaningful and a growth situation. And that's really something so important for us to remember. So we can see with this that, every word of the Torah can be understood on so many different levels. On the one hand, we're talking about when you go to battle and when you're doing battle with your enemies, and this is the way that you overcome your enemies on a physical level. On a psychological level, we see the Torah is talking to each and every one of us when we're not in battle, when we're not in a situation of war. But how do we overcome the situation? So these are all different levels that Torah always addresses. And that's why we say the Torah isn't just something that's physical, it's enclosed in physical reality. Mitzvot are physical things that we're doing, but there's so many layers of meaning for every single word of the Torah and for every mitzvah of the Torah that it could be understood on so many different levels. And even those parts of the Torah that are not applicable today because of the situation that we're in, let's say we don't need to fight a battle, which unfortunately we do, but there's other examples when we don't see it necessarily applicable today, it still has that spiritual value, that other layers of meaning value, and that's where, which is very significant. And I want to go into another mitzvah that's written in the Torah that has a similar understanding that we can learn so much about also. This was talking about battles that we encounter in our life, and the next thing is really talking about our mission in this world, our mission and our purpose. And I know Barbara was reading the book on purpose, and some of you others were looking through it. And it was really all about finding our mission, our purpose, our what we're supposed to be doing in life. And it's hard. It's sometimes really hard to find and to figure out what is my personal mission. And sometimes it's not just one personal mission, but there's a whole series of missions. Like, I'm doing something. Do I continue? Do I give up? Do I change into something else? At one point, do I say, I've tried enough, it's time to move on? Any of you ever find that yourself in such a situation?
Never.
Never. Okay. Right, so we don't know exactly when is it the right time to say, okay, this is it, and when is it time to continue on and to persevere? And interestingly, we learned this from another another part in the Torah, which is the mitzvah of marriage in this week's Torah portion, and also divorce. And from the ways of a person getting divorced, we learn about the laws of marriage as well. And so here's what it says. When a man takes a woman as a wife, and it will be, if she does not find favor in his eyes, because he found something immoral going on, he will write for her a letter of a get, of a divorce, and he'll give it in her hands, and he should send her from his house. So this is really telling us the way that a marriage is dissolved. In Judaism, no one has to stay married forever. It's not something like in certain religions, it is something that you just stay married forever. In Judaism, if the parties decide that they no longer want to be married, there is a process of what you do. And the process is written out in the Torah. The process is a divorce. And in order to give, it's not enough for them to remain apart, to separate. That doesn't create the divorce. It's not even enough for a person to get a civil divorce, but a person needs to get this get, which is a Jewish divorce, and it has to be written by a Beit Din and given over to the individuals. So this is the way that a person gets divorced. Now, on this pasuk, on this verse, there are 3 differences of opinion as far as when should somebody get divorced. And the opinion are, according to number 1, according to Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, the house of Shammai, the house of Hillel, and Rabbi Akiva. So any of you know Beis Shammai and Hillel? Have you heard of them? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of differences in the Talmud between the house of Hillel and the house of Shammai. Generally speaking, the house of Hillel was much more lenient. Mm-hmm. And the house of Hillel was much more, the house of Shammai was much more stringent, and the house of Hillel was much more lenient with things. And this is, why was this so? Because the people from Shammai, the learning of Beis Shammai, of the house of Shammai, that institute of Shammai, were people who generated their souls were from the sphere of Gvura, which is more rigid, which is more strength, which is less Chesed. The house of Hillel was from the house of Chesed, was from the souls that are generated from Chesed, from kindness. And so their way of looking at this world was based on their soul powers. So their way of looking at this world, the house of Hillel would look at the world from a viewpoint of Chesed, of how can we make things permitted? How can we use all these things in this physical world in a way to serve God? The house of Shammai, on the other hand, came from this Gvura, which is more restrictive, which is more judgmental, which is more the opposite, more severe. And they were more, this is something that cannot be uplifted or used for godliness in this world, so we're going to forbid it from being used. So that was generally the difference between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, the house of Shammai and the house of the Institute of Shammai and the Institute of Hillel. And you can see again, like how the way that a person is going to go to this, the type of learning that they're going to go to be attracted to, is what they personally are, what their soul level is. And this is true with what we learn as well, with Chassidut, with what we're learning. The way that our souls are generated is what pulls us to certain teachings. If we're more mystically, more mystically oriented, if we're more looking at the whole picture, if we're more legalistic, these are all different parts of Torah, and everyone gets from it the part that really speaks to their soul. And that's why you'll have people who are just very legalistic, into the laws, into the yeses and the nos, others that want to understand more the meaning, others that want to see how does it apply to me on a more spiritual, psychological level. And these are all different ways of how we learn Torah and how it applies to each and every one of us in every generation and every time period. So the house of Shammai says that when should a person get divorced? The house of Shammai says only if they discover immodest conduct. Only if the person was immodest, if there was immodest conduct, if there was something that was wrong in the relationship, then they can get divorced. The House of Hillel says a man can get divorced even if the woman intentionally, not unintentionally, but intentionally spoiled his food. Okay. Yeah. Yep.
That's easy.
Really easy, right? That's a really easy one. And Rabbi Akiva, who is known as very much like loving our fellow Jew, right? Love your fellow Jew as yourself. He says, even more lenient, he says you can get divorced even if the person finds someone more attractive. So not that there was anything negative, not that anything was wrong, just they no longer find favor in her eyes or in his eyes, so then they are permitted to get divorced. So these are interesting ideas. Now let's delve further into it. What does this mean? So, and by the way, the rule is according to Hillel. That's what the law is according to Hillel. Even if she intentionally spoiled his food, that's when he is permitted, meaning something intentionally was done. There's some kind of friction there. Not just that he found somebody else, but there's some friction in the relationship, then the person can get divorced. It doesn't have to be so severe that there was actually an immodest behavior or immodest conduct. So when we talk about marriage, we're not only talking, again, like this is on a legalistic level, and on a legalistic level, there's many legal laws that are learned from this pasuk in the Torah, but we're delving deeper, and we're trying to understand this from a more cosmic perspective, how this applies to us on a day-to-day basis or on a life basis. So what do we mean when we talk about a marriage? When we talk about a marriage, there's really two kinds of marriages. There's the marriage between God and the Jewish people. I mean, there's the marriage between husband and wife, but we're talking on a more universal level. There's the marriage between God and the Jewish people. And there's also the marriage between the body and the soul. Every body comes down into this world and gets a soul. The body and the soul are connected, and that body and soul are now married to each other. The Jewish people are married to God. God is, in many references in the Torah, it talks about God as our spouse. Sometimes it talks about God as our father, sometimes as a sister, or a sibling, and sometimes it talks about God as a marriage partner. These are all different relationships that we have, different levels of relationships that we have with God. So when it comes to us in terms of a body and a soul that are married to each other, this means that the soul comes down into this world and has a mission to accomplish. And the soul is given a physical body in order to accomplish that mission. Because a soul without a body can't do anything. It can't talk, it can't walk, it can't use its hands. So the soul comes down into this world with a mission, and that mission is going to be done through the body. The soul and the body need to work together in unison. So when a person is in this world with this mission, the question is, when should I stop doing the mission that I was given? When can I stop doing the mission that I was given? When can I look for something else? When can I look for another wife or another person, another mission? When am I allowed to stop doing what I am working on? And when am I supposed to say to myself, no, continue doing it till you see success? According to Shammai, a person would have to see something immodest conduct, meaning they'd have to see that the thing that they are working on is creating something, it's pulling them down in a very negative way. It's creating depression, it's creating anxiety, it's creating things that are very negative on them. And when you have that, it's time to look for something else, okay? According to the House of... Bye-bye.
Sorry,
No problem.
I have to.
No problem, no problem. According to the House of Hillel, it's more lenient. When can a person look for something else? When the food is spoiled, meaning when you feel something, you're not attracted to what you're doing. It's something that's a negative thing. There's something wrong. There's still something wrong with it. It's spoiled. It's not working out. It might not be something that's pulling you down spiritually, but it's something that's not working in a way that it's spoiled, that it's not fresh, it's not new, it's not healthy for you. Something there is wrong with it. According to Rabbi Akiva, a person should not look for something else a person is allowed to look for something else as long as they're not anymore excited about it. You lost your passion, you lost your zeal for it, you lost your excitement over it, time to look for something else. Now, how does this apply to each and every one of us? It's a little confusing, right? What does this mean for us? Let's say you're working on something, you're working on a project, okay? We all work on different projects, or you have a job and you're working on a job. Do you look at this as something that has been just arbitrarily given to you? Or do you look at this as something that is a mission and a calling in your life? Nothing in our world is just arbitrary. So you meet somebody, you get involved with a project, you get involved with some situation. Nothing is just arbitrary. It just so happened to have happened. You were put here in New City, in this place, for a reason, to get involved, to work with what you're doing here. You were put here for a very specific reason. When should you say, well, it's time to move, it's time to give up, and this is really applicable, right? It's time to stop what I'm working at. If a person is constantly looking for something else in life, right, you're never devoted to what you're doing. And you sometimes see these kind of people. They're working on one thing, and then another thing comes up, and they say, oh, why don't I try this? Why don't I try this project or get involved with this? And then something else comes up the next day, and that catches their fancy. Why don't I try working on that? You could do that, and according to Rabbi Akiva, that would be fine, because you're passionate about something else, so go ahead and be passionate about that. According to Hillel, though, it has to be a reason. You have to have a stronger reason. The food has to be spoiled, meaning there's something negative about the situation that you're in, something that's not appealing with the situation. Something about it is marred, something about it is spoiled. There's a reason why you're going on to something else. In your case, your lack of having family. That's a reason. It's a reason to feel like there's something missing here. Okay, and according to Shammai, it would have to be that your situation is pulling you so down that you feel negatively, that this is causing you to go lower spiritually. It's causing you some kind of degradation spiritually. You're not servicing your spiritual self. That's a really strong reason to do it. And the halacha, the law, is according to Hillel, that as long as you feel something is missing, something is spoiled here, you're permitted to do it. Now, this doesn't mean that if a person, these are just suggestions. This is not part of the legalistic law. We're just trying to understand it and apply it to ourselves. So these are suggestions for how a person can look at predicaments in their life, could look at situations in their life, could look at how important is it for me to pursue what I am working on, or is it time for me to say, it's time to turn another page? And these are just suggestions of how you can evaluate what is causing me to turn that other page. Everything that I've been given is given to me for a reason. Every person we encounter is given to us for a reason, and we don't usually look at it. We say, oh, I just got this job by mistake or by coincidence. I just met this person by coincidence. I just happened to live in this place, in this village, in this city by coincidence. I just happened to be born into this family by coincidence. And we're saying, no, no, no. It's specifically in these things that you can find your mission in life. And in fact, in that book, On Purpose, that Barbara was reading, it goes through a lot of these things of how you can really determine your mission in life based on your situation, where you were born, your family. These are all contributing factors to help you to get through the mission in your life. And in fact, it says that it's a mitzvah for a man to remarry a woman who he divorced. It's a mitzvah if they can get together, as long as she hasn't gone on and married somebody else. But yeah, it's a mitzvah to remarry, which means that when you are given a situation in life, there's a reason why you were given that situation. There's a reason why you were given a particular challenge in life. There's a reason why you were given a certain position in life. And very often, as you go through life, you sometimes revisit those qualities that you needed. Any of you ever have that you, later on in life, you revisit a certain calling that you once had because you feel that was a calling, that this is something that I'm good at. You might have had to leave it for a certain time, but you come back to it. You're nodding. Did you have an example?
Not, I had to put it together.
Right. Right.
I will.
Or sometimes you recreate yourself in a different way. You were a teacher in a school, right? Maybe after you finish, after years of teaching in that school, you're looking for something, a different way of recreating yourself, but using those qualities or those talents that you've had. Maybe now you'll be counseling people on a one-to-one. You'll be using some of those sorry?
That's exactly what I did. I went from teaching to guidance.
Exactly. So you haven't left what you're doing. You've recreated it in a different way. Because as we mature and as we get older, we sometimes need a different change. But you've gone back to what it was that was your purpose and your mission. You've just changed the circumstances of it. So it's interesting. I just found this so interesting that the Torah is like taking a legalistic idea of getting divorced, and through that legalistic idea, that legal idea of how to get divorced, it's teaching us something about ourselves, about our personalities, about what our mission in this world is, and the value of persistence, the value of trying to persist in that situation, but at the same time teaching us that there are times when you should not persist in that situation, when the situation isn't good for you, when it's time for a change, when it's pulling you down, when there's something missing, then it's time that you should go on to something else and to try something new. And we're learning this all out from the fact of this law of divorce in this situation in the divorce. So that's what the Torah is teaching us through this law. That's how we can also see how a law that's an actual, very necessary law, because we need to know how to get divorced, is, not only civilly but actually religiously. But even from something like that, it can apply to each and every one of us in every circumstance of our lives, wherever we are, because it's not only narrowed down to just the laws of divorce, it's also our missions in this world, the body marrying the soul, and how are we dealing with that? There was an interesting little anecdote that I read about this sage who decided he's going to wake up early in the morning because he has so much that he wants to accomplish in his life, and he keeps on trying to wake up earlier and earlier in the morning in order to get this done. Relate to any of you? Right? So he sets his alarm, or whatever it was in the olden days that they used to do in order to wake up early, and he wakes up early and he hears a voice inside of him saying, the voice that we all have inside of us saying, "Hey, you're an old man. You need your sleep. Go back to sleep. You'll do it a different day. Why are you trying to make yourself crazy? You need your sleep. You need your health. You're an old man. Why are you trying to wake up so early?" So how does he answer this voice that's inside of him? He says, "You, voice, you're even older than I am, because you're the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara, the Satan, that's trying to always stop us from doing what we're supposed to be doing. And this was created on the first day of creation. This was created at the beginning of all time. You're even older than I am. And look, you're even awake even before me. And you're ready to try to stop me from doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So here we see, this idea of persevering. This has to do with the first idea that we spoke about, when you're going to war on your enemies, that you have to know that you're above your enemies, as well as this idea of persevering in our mission, when it is important to keep at it, when it is important to not just give up on a project or a position or a mission that we are entrusted with, because everything that we confront in our life, in our world, is there for a reason. And if we were there given this idea, this mission, this purpose, then it's something that we need to try to work on. There are times when it's time to say, it's now time to leave it. If it's pulling me down, if it's morally incorrect for me, or if it's something that's marring me, if something is spoiled, I'm missing something from it, then there's times to explore and look into other avenues and options, and we're allowed to do that. But at the same time, it gives us the encouragement not to just leave things, not to just give up, but to realize that when something is put in our lap, it's there for a reason, and it's divine providence. And I wish you all success in the coming week and whatever missions or things that you're working on. Joan, I wish you so much success in your leaving and finding your new mission there and your new purpose. And you'll be taking some of what you've learned from here with you.
I'll take it straight with me.